Today I'm going to be talking about which market I believe in the sports card market is going to be the best, the safest to invest in, whatever, 10 to 20 years from now, sometime in the long-term future. And I'm just going to be talking about these 5 sports: hockey, basketball, soccer, football, and baseball. So, as always, how's it going, y'all? Conrad Sports Cards here. You already know how it is. As always, I've got my notes. Let's get into it. So, the fifth and / the worst investment that you can be making long-term, in my opinion, is hockey. If you are investing in hockey, you're pretty much just investing in the long term. You're going to be buying some like the all-time greats, like Wayne Gretzky, maybe a little bit of Mario Lemieux. Sidney Crosby is, I guess, a notable name, and a lot of people in the modern hockey market are investing in Connor McDavid, right? So obviously there's not a ton of players to invest in, but one of the biggest issues with hockey, in my opinion, is that there's not a lot of U.S. demand, right? There's not a lot of people in the United States that watch hockey. While we do have the NHL, it's more popular in Canada. I have not talked to a lot of hockey collectors or hockey investors that are based in the United States. A lot of them are based in Canada. So overall, I don't think that there's just a lot of demand for it here. And of course, cards have been integrated into Americans' culture for decades now. And that's very crucial in order to see some growth, is seeing cards being integrated into a culture of a country, a continent, whatever it is, in order for it to actually establish itself as an investment in the long term. And so I don't see a single positive thing that you can do by trying to invest in hockey unless you're able to day trade it, making flips now. I don't know the market well enough, so I don't know how easy it is to do that. But that's pretty much the only way I see it happening. Man, I really need a haircut. I'm looking at myself. I'm like, whew. Yeah, ignore the hair if you're watching this on YouTube. But anyway, the fourth market, which is the second to worst, and I almost considered putting this at 3, but for some reasons that I'll discuss later, I didn't, is soccer. In soccer, there is more EPL / which is English Premier League viewership now. I believe it was either CSNBC or Fox that came out with a program of some sort, like NBA League Pass, that is now streaming English Premier League games in the United States. And I believe they had about 10 to 14 million viewers in their first year. So it's obviously a good sign that there is some United States demand for soccer as a sport, right? A lot of people are willing to consume it, to watch it, and they do enjoy the game itself. There's also, of course, global demand, so if cards do become more global and more popular in other countries, then, of course, not hockey, but soccer is definitely going to be, one of the front-runners, one of the front-running sports for cards overall. Just overall, they're going to be definitely one of the more exponentially growing sports in the sports card industry that's gaining some massive growth. The biggest issue there's a couple of issues actually, but one of the biggest issues with soccer cards is that I think there's too many leagues, too many players, too many teams to memorize, and a lot of investors, quote unquote, that don't feel like putting in work are not going to if they get presented with 6 different leagues, Bundesliga, Premier League, MLS, all that stuff. They're not going to want to do the research on every single player, on every single team, because there's just too many people to be paying attention to, right? And I think that's just going to be one of the reasons that not even that people leave the market, leave the sport, but one of the biggest reasons that people never even get in the first place. And you have to at least have an audience come into the industry in order to actually keep them in the industry, right? To keep them investing, to keep them buying, selling, trading, all of the above. Another small issue with soccer cards is that I think that people that are investing in soccer cards in the United States are investing in the wrong way. Stickers overseas. Stickers are what's popular, not Prism, not Topps Chrome, not Optic, not Select, which is the classic products over here in the U.S. that people are buying and selling and stuff like that. The demand is in the stickers, not as much in the Chrome products that we see in other sports. And I think that if people don't really catch on to that, they're kind of going to fail, right? I think that the United States demand has to meet or match the demand overseas, right? We have to both be having the same demand for the same products in order to create that. And also, a lot of people are relying on that overseas demand for soccer to grow. And there's no Panini manufacturer in overseas, wherever in Europe. There's a lot of importing fees that you have to pay, and a lot of sellers aren't going to want to pay that, right? So it's just very difficult to, I think, get that connection going, to get that connection to work. At number 3, we're going to have baseball. Like I said, I was kind of considering actually putting soccer ahead of this because I think that soccer, as it becomes more popular in the U.S., will continue to rise, while baseball, I think, is actually going to continue to fall. It's slowly, I think, losing demand overall in the United States. Not demand. It's slowly just becoming less exciting for people in the United States to watch. It's not one of the more high-intensity sports. There's a lot of breaks. It's just a very slow-paced game, and I don't think that people are going to be able to handle that, especially because our attention spans are getting shorter, and we're just not really able to sit through that little action in such a long time span, right? I just don't think that a lot of people are willing to sit through that, and I just think that, especially amongst the younger generation, it's going to slowly increase as far as viewership for the MLB goes. Another issue that actually Gary Vee, I believe, has talked about is that MLB players can't really separate themselves from their athletics, right? They can't really promote themselves really in any sort of way on social media, and that makes it very difficult, I think, for the sport to grow, especially with the rise in social media. It's just very difficult, I think, for not only the players, but for the league itself to kind of expand and to, capture more of the sports market as a whole. However, there are a couple of good things about baseball, and well, not a couple, honestly, it's just really one, is that it's backed by vintage, right? Some of these staples of the card industry, Babe Ruth cards, Mickey Mantle's 52 rookie card, 1952 rookie card, Honus Wagner's rookie card, Lou Gehrig, all these greats, Joe DiMaggio, I believe, I'm not a baseball guy, I believe that's his name, but I could totally be wrong, because that sounds like a baseball player, but coming out of my mouth, it didn't seem right. Like I said, I'm not a baseball guy. So for some reason, that just doesn't sound right. But regardless, there are a lot of the staples in the sports card market that are involved in baseball, right? So of course that just kind of means that it's at least backed by vintage. The modern sports card market is a little bit backed by vintage, and that means that there's at least going to still be demand for it, even if modern cards are kind of falling off. There's going to be a lot of demand for vintage cards, which in turn could then create a little bit more demand for modern cards as well as people look to expand their portfolio, diversify a little bit amongst the sport that they love. At number 2, I'm going to have football, American football. Obviously, it is the most popular sport right now in America. By far, and the Super Bowl is one of the biggest events globally that occurs every single year. Many people tune in. Of course, most of it is coming from America. I believe it's around 200 million viewers for the Super Bowl, but I could be wrong. It may be closer to like 500 million or something like that. I honestly don't know, but I believe it's about 200 million viewers for the Super Bowl, right? There's also a good amount of demand for it in cards, right? People are still investing in it currently. It's one of the bigger markets that is currently existing in sports cards, right? While soccer and hockey haven't really established themselves yet in the sports card industry, and baseball vintage really has, and modern is kind of getting there. Football's modern sports card market has been established. People are buying, selling, and trading currently in this market, so that kind of gives it a platform to go off of before they actually begin to grow a little bit as far as investments go. But speaking of investing in football cards, that's one of the biggest issues with football, is that you can really only invest in quarterbacks, right? When you invest, you can't really invest in defensive players or offensive linemen. They just don't have demand whatsoever. Position players, they have a high risk of getting injured. They're also just riskier to invest in because they rely a lot on their QBs and their stats just don't look as good. So you can really only invest in the quarterbacks in the NFL, and that only leaves you with about 32 people to invest in. The 32 starting QBs is what I'm talking about, referring to here. 32 players that you can really invest in, and that's just not that exciting as far as, buying, selling, trading. Ooh, this guy went up, this guy went down. All of a sudden, huge performance. All of the FOMO, the excitement that comes with sports cards, you don't get that when there's only 30 people that you can really make money off of if you're looking to invest in sports cards. And so at number 1, I have basketball, obviously. So I don't really see a negative whatsoever with basketball. It is currently, I believe, the largest market in sports cards. While it's not the most popular sport yet, it's the most largest, the most established modern sports card market by far. I don't think that anything really even touches it. It is a bit backed by vintage, like I was mentioning with hockey. You have the Fleer 86 Jordan, which is definitely one of the biggest staples of sports cards. LeBron's Topps 03 Chrome, maybe his Chrome Refractor. That could eventually become a staple as well. And then there's also, like the Julius Erving that recently has kind of exploded. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, maybe there's a Wilt Chamberlain or, there is Wilt Chamberlain, and then maybe a Bill Russell rookie as well. I haven't actually seen the Bill Russell rookie. I don't know, actually. I have not seen the Bill Russell rookie. That's just the best way to put it. So it is a little bit not backed by vintage, but it does have a little bit of demand there. You have people that are wanting to collect those, to hold on to those for until the day that they die, right? And so that's kind of backed by vintage, right? Then there's also just a ton of young talent in the league currently. You know, Michael Porter Jr., Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Trae Young, Jason Tatum, Brandon Ingram, all these guys and there's still a ton of that I didn't even mention, and a ton of new great young players coming in, because the younger players are getting better and better as time goes on, as the sport becomes more popular. And that's another reason that I believe basketball is the number one market for the future, and actually right now. And that's because it's becoming more popular both in the U.S. and globally, right? With the rise of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Luka Doncic, who are both overseas players, I believe basketball is getting more popular overseas. There are other leagues established around the world. While, of course, they're not going to be like investing into these leagues, I don't believe, they're still creating demand overseas for basketball. And, of course, if cards do become, established in other cultures, other countries, then, people from these leagues may see, oh, remember then when this guy was in our league and all of a sudden he's becoming, an NBA champion, I want to buy his cards. And, of course, that just creates more demand. I think there's a lot more versatility, a lot more room to grow with basketball. That's why I have it ranked as number one. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. If you did enjoy it, feel free to go ahead and check out my other videos, as I have many other episodes like it. Maybe you're listening on Apple or Spotify. Also, check out the link tree in my description. That will lead you to like my TikTok, my Instagram, Twitter, all those other platforms. I post a lot more content on there as well, and you can get a lot more content of mine on there. You can also send me a DM if you have any questions, or leave a comment right here in the YouTube video if you're watching it on YouTube. Once again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.